Good evening. It is such an honor to share this stage with all of these amazing women who have told their stories this evening. It leads me to remember a different time of sharing a story. How many of you remember as a child when you would play hopscotch or duck, duck, goose, then the best part came next? Your teacher would tell you a story for nap time. How many of you remember the story of the ugly duckling? Yes. We've all felt like that ugly duckling at one time or another, but I'm here to tell you about the transformation into the swan. It's not just my story, but hopefully it will be the beginning of all of yours. I'm going to tell you my story of being a sexual abuse survivor. As an Asian American woman, having to respect my culture was not the easiest thing to do. I was told to suppress my feelings, hold it in, and to just deal with it. As you can imagine, most of my life, I needed to just save face, pretend that everything was okay when it really wasn't. When in reality, all I wanted to do was rebel. Where was the Mulan in me? Do you know Disney's Asian female character? I had been told in a past life that I was of royalty. But what good is it to be of powerful royal descent when no one hears you when you speak? None. I needed to defend my family's honor and not be labeled as a so-called troublemaker. So what did I do? I tucked in my emotions all in here with the little ounce of strength that I had left in me. And soon, they began to just get louder and louder, but I still had to carry on and hold them in me and pretend that everything was okay. When secretly, all I wanted to do was be Mulan and fight my demons. The most painful, upsetting, stomach-wrenching emotion was that I had been molested from the ages of 5 to 9. And I could tell no one my secret. No one. Because if I told anyone my secret, that means it would be a disgrace to my family and that I was accusing another family of causing harm, although it was my truth. No matter how many times I screamed and kicked as I was being dropped off to that family's house, no one heard me. I was invisible. I didn't matter. After being sexually abused repeatedly, my childlike spirit shattered into a million jagged, painful pieces. I did not trust anyone, and at the time, I was too afraid to stop my violator because I was threatened with physical abuse and hit when I did not comply. My family did not come to my rescue either and help me because they did not see the bruises under my clothes. Did you know that only about 12% of childhood sexual abuse is ever reported to the authorities? And there exist 39 million survivors of childhood abuse. 30 to 40% of these children are abused by family members. More than 50% are abused by someone that is close to the family and that the family trusts. More than 20% of these children are abused before the age of 8. I belonged to this group of statistics. I was sexually abused before the age of 8, and it was a very, very close friend of the family. Living closed-hearted began to take a toll on me because I had tucked all of these emotions in for more than 2 decades. This is when I decided to tell my family. Do you know what happened? My family was in denial. They still did not acknowledge my sexual abuse. Later on, I found out that members of my family had also been sexually abused, but they decided to carry on the tradition of saving face. I then made the choice to throw out the tradition of saving face and to speak out. All of my emotions that had been bubbling inside of me began to bubble more and more and more. And all of a sudden, they sounded like a whole bunch of loud ducks quacking. Quack, you're not worthy. Quack, you're not beautiful. You'll never be beautiful. Quack, who would ever love you now? You should be ashamed of yourself. Quack, you're guilty. You are so guilty. You're an embarrassment. And it became louder and louder and echoed in my head over and over again. Quack, quack, quack. I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted it to stop. I needed to move forward, but how? A few years ago, I participated in an all-women's life coaching program. Our teacher asked us a question: how do you feel about men? And I listened very closely, as every single negative emotion that these women felt about men, I felt the same exact way about women. You may ask, why would you trust a man over a woman? You see, the person who sexually assaulted me was a woman. She was of my own gender. I felt betrayed by my own gender. But I realized if I wanted to make progress, I needed to forgive. It was the right thing to do. Forgive? Hell no. Universe, you want me to forgive my perpetrator? How dare you ask such thing of me when I'm the one suffering? But I made that choice. I wanted to move forward with progress. As I searched for peace and understanding, I had learned about compassion, true compassion. This is when my Mulan began to awaken me. Perhaps my perpetrator had been molested herself. I will never know. I placed my hand on my heart, and I forgave her. It wasn't easy, as the rage that had lived inside of me could have easily hunted her down and made her life a living hell as well. But when I made that choice to forgive her, these emotions of hatred and resentment vanished into thin air. I felt a little lighter. For the first time in my life, I had a feeling of inner peace, true inner peace. I was free, or so I thought. What happened to me was not my fault. I needed to feel and be free. So I cried it all out, and the tears flowed like a broken dam. I had forgiven myself. But now I want you to take a moment and to place your hand on your heart. Can you find it in your heart to forgive that person who may have betrayed you or assaulted you or made your life a living hell? Can you truly, truly forgive that person wholeheartedly? Once I forgave myself, my emotions are no longer a struggle. I could finally come out and be seen. The key was to accept my path. When I accepted my path wholeheartedly, this is when my whole life transformed. For more than 2 decades of holding in all that emotion, I buried them because the 3 main ones that I felt were shame, guilt, and embarrassment because I had been sexually abused. I'm here to tell you, I am that ugly duckling that turned into the beautiful, radiant, self-loving swan. And if my story helps to heal just one person, then honestly, I am the one who has been blessed to have been given the opportunity to do so. There's a quote by Nelson Mandela. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to let their own light shine. I am here standing in front of a gorgeous, spirited, loving group of women. And it is my first time in public sharing my story. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you. I am now seen, and I see every one of you as well here tonight. It's time to love your beautiful selves once again. Someone may have stolen or shattered your spirit, but if there's one thing I want you to remember, is that your spirit can never, ever, ever be destroyed. Your spirit is an embodiment of who you really are, your true, authentic self. What do you choose to see in your reflection? Do you choose to see the brokenhearted spirit, or do you choose to see your true, beautiful, gorgeous, radiant self? I saw myself as in the spirit of Mulan, in which I love and adore. All of you, I want your spirits to come out as mine has. Your true, playful, loving, alive, and juicy spirit. You have 2 choices. You can either see the person that no one knows, as Mulan often did, or you can look into the mirror and see your swan, SWAN, a strong woman awakening now. We can't be the Mulans if we've been told to ignore it or to just deal with it, because those people live in fairy tale land. We're always reminded of the ugly ducklings, but rarely do we focus on the transformation of the swan. We all have been the ugly ducklings or have been surrounded by them. But let me tell you, the true healing The true process of healing happens when we ourselves become the swan. So before I leave you tonight, I have a few requests from you. Cast away your ugly ducklings, live your Mulan spirit, and embrace your swan. Thank you. Wow.